When people dream about traveling around Europe, the same countries usually come to mind. France, Italy, Switzerland, maybe Austria. But Slovenia? For many travelers, it barely makes the list. And after spending time here, I honestly started wondering, why? Because this tiny European country gave me something I wasn't expecting at all. And by the end of this video, I'll tell you the one thing about Slovenia that completely changed the way I see it. My journey started in Ljubljana, and the first thing I noticed wasn't a famous monument. It was how calm everything felt. You can walk through the center without constantly fighting through huge crowds. There are cafes along the river, bridges connecting the old streets, people cycling everywhere, and somehow the city feels alive without feeling exhausting. Ljubljana isn't trying to overwhelm you, and maybe that's exactly why I liked it. But here's the interesting part. If you only stay in Ljubljana, you're seeing just a small part of what makes Slovenia special. Because once you leave the capital, the country changes very quickly. This is where Slovenia started surprising me. In a relatively small country, you can go from elegant European streets to lakes, forests, and mountains without spending half your holiday traveling between them. And then there's Lake Bled. You've probably seen this image before. The blue-green water, the tiny island, the church sitting in the middle, the mountains behind it. But photographs don't really explain what makes this place work. It's the atmosphere. Walk around the lake and everything slows down. And compared with some of Europe's most famous natural destinations, it can feel much more manageable. That's when I started thinking, maybe Slovenia's biggest advantage is actually the fact that it isn't one of Europe's biggest tourist destinations. Think about what many of us want from a European trip. Beautiful old towns, mountains, lakes, good food, walkable cities, easy day trips. We often travel across several countries trying to combine all of those things. Slovenia puts a surprising amount of them into one small place. And that makes traveling here feel different. You're not constantly rushing from one attraction to another just because a travel guide told you that you have to see 10 things before sunset. Sometimes the best part is simply sitting beside the river in Ljubljana, or stopping somewhere because the view looks good. And that's something I think we've started losing in some of Europe's most heavily visited cities. But I don't want to pretend Slovenia is perfect, because there's something you should know before coming here. If your idea of a European holiday is non-stop nightlife, enormous shopping districts, and world-famous attractions around every corner, Slovenia might actually feel too quiet. Ljubljana is small. You can cover much of its historic center surprisingly quickly. And, you know, some travelers may arrive expecting the scale of Prague, Vienna, or Budapest. You're not going to get that. But that's also where I think people misunderstand Slovenia. Don't come here expecting another Paris. Don't come expecting another Rome. Come because it isn't either of those places. Once I understood that, the entire experience made much more sense. There was another thing I noticed. Slovenia doesn't constantly feel like it's performing for tourists. You still see normal everyday life happening around you. People cycling home, friends sitting beside the river, small cafes filling up in the afternoon, local markets, quiet streets just minutes away from the busiest areas. And for me, those moments matter. Because after you've traveled enough, sometimes another famous monument isn't what you remember. You remember how a place made you feel. And Slovenia felt easy. I didn't feel like I needed to chase the next attraction every 15 minutes. I could actually look around. And that feeling becomes even stronger when you get outside Ljubljana. Then there's the food. Slovenian cuisine reflects where the country sits geographically. You can find influences from Italy, Austria, Hungary, and the Balkans. But Slovenia still has its own identity. And one thing I would definitely try around Lake Bled is the famous Bled cream cake. It's simple, but it's become part of the experience here. Of course, Slovenia isn't some unbelievably cheap secret anymore. Prices have increased, especially in the most touristy areas. But compared with spending an entire holiday in some of Western Europe's biggest destinations, there can still be good value depending on where you stay and how you travel. And because distances are relatively short, you don't necessarily lose entire days just moving between places. And this is where Slovenia finally made sense to me. Maybe the reason I enjoyed it so much is the same reason some travelers overlook it. It doesn't scream for attention. Paris gives you the Eiffel Tower. Rome gives you the Colosseum. Amsterdam gives you its canals. Slovenia doesn't have one single image powerful enough to define the whole country. Instead, you get pieces. Ljubljana, Lake Bled, mountains, forests, small towns, quiet moments. And individually, maybe none of those sounds enough to build an entire European trip around. But put them together, and suddenly you have something very different. So, is Slovenia Europe's most underrated country? I don't know if any country can really claim that title, but I do know this. If you're planning a European trip and you're only looking at the famous names, Slovenia is exactly the kind of place you could accidentally miss. And I think that would be a mistake. Not because it's better than every famous European destination, but because it offers something increasingly difficult to find. A beautiful European trip that can still feel like you're discovering something for yourself. And that was the thing I didn't expect. I came looking for another destination. I left thinking about when I'd come back. I'm continuing to look for European places that deserve more attention than they get. So if that's the Europe you want to discover too, subscribe to Far and Beyond. Because the next destination might surprise us even more.